Hi, it's Alex Moros with Keller Williams Premier Realty out of Woodbury, Minnesota, here with episode 4 of Fact You Friday. Thanks for tuning in. This week's topic is, a question that I think a lot of people have about realtors is, how did you get into real estate? And so the way that I got into real estate was kind of roundabout, but also kind of serendipitous, I feel like. I was born in St. Paul, Minnesota. We lived here for a few years while I was a young kid over in the Miriam Park neighborhood, and then I moved to Texas with my family down to the Arlington, Dallas-Fort Worth area. Lived down there for a number of years, and then we moved out to Portland, Oregon. I lived out there for just 2 years before relocating to Denver, just outside of Denver, for the last 3 years of high school. And then after that, I moved back up to Minnesota and went to Carleton. And after Carleton, moved back up to the Twin Cities. And I've been up here in the metro ever since. And so moving around a lot as a kid, I didn't think about it at the time, but each time we had to move, and those of you who have moved and made big moves, whether across town or from state to state, know that it can be kind of tough sometimes. And so for me, home and home base and the home that we lived in each time we moved became a real refuge for me, trying to fit in a new place, new schools, new friends, leaving old friends behind. And so home took on a really powerful meaning, for me. And home was when things were tough on tough days, or when I was the new kid again. It was a place that I could come back to that was safe, that was comfortable, and is something that I've now sought in my adulthood when I've moved and when looking at homes. And that's something that I transfer to try to appreciate and understand with my clients when I'm helping them move and move on to the next chapter, because it can be tough. And then as far as how I actually got into real estate, that's kind of the history of why I'm drawn to real estate and kind of where my heart is with real estate. But I essentially fell into leasing apartments when I first moved to the Twin Cities. Well, a couple of years after I moved to the Twin Cities, I started as a part-time leasing agent in the summers in the Stevens community, which, if you know, Minneapolis is just a couple blocks south of the convention center, major cross street is 3rd Avenue and Franklin. So I worked there for a number of years, showing apartments, really liked it. Again, still wasn't really thinking, hey, this is gonna be my career. It was just something that I fell into during the summers when I was off from the kind of school year. I was working for Climb Theater at the time, doing interactive theater and education in schools. So it was just kind of a summer gig. And then as time went on, I phased myself kind of out of the schools, and I was not sure exactly what I wanted to do. And so I moved into a full-time position at Stevens Community. And not too long after that, about a year and a half after that, I applied for and got a management position with the Goodman Group, and I was then sent to manage Valley Village Apartments in Golden Valley off of Highway 55 and 100. I was there for 5.5 years, and so I liked it. I've enjoyed housing in one form or another for most of my working adult life. And now I've been doing real estate full time for a little over 4 years, been licensed and had overlapping jobs for about a year, so total a little over 5.5 years in the business. But what it was is, at Valley Village, I was getting to the point at 4 or 5 years in, that one of my residents, Chris Courts, hey Chris, I hope you're watching. So I have to give Chris credit, because he had moved out here from out of state to work with his friend Andy Asbury, who was then at Better Homes and Gardens. And one summer he was in and out of the office saying, hey, I'm off to show houses, I'm off to another closing, off to a showings, just constantly. And so I stopped him one day. I was like, hey, I had been licensed at one point because I was, helping run apartment leasing and some administrative tasks for over 600 units in Minneapolis. And so 600 individual apartments, 23 buildings. And so I had been licensed at some point. I was like, God, tell me more about what's going on, and have me meet with your broker, help me set up a meeting. So I did. So I sat down with Andy, and I got licensed. This was back in 2012, the end of the summer 2012, and I started, took out my very first tour as a realtor, licensed realtor in Minnesota on October 12th, 2012. And so here I am now, and it's been a really good fit, for a lot of different reasons. Some of the childhood reasons, but a lot of the kind of problem solving, the negotiating, just the architecture, being able to look at houses, and then being able to connect with people in a meaningful way, in a big part of their life, temporary, but a big part of their life and a big investment, and help people to navigate. Those are some of the things that I'm really attracted to. So that's how I got into real estate. Just kind of fell into the apartment leasing, and then met a realtor who put me in touch with a broker, and that's it. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this shorter version of FAQ Friday, and tune in next week for another episode. Thanks so much.